Let me ask you this. I keep hearing we don't have enough beds. We don't have enough ventilators. We don't have enough respirators. And I did a little research. You can straighten me out if I'm wrong. We have what's called these con laws in 36 states in the District of Columbia. These are certificate of need laws where the governors, the states decide how many ICU beds they're going to be, how many hospitals they're going to be, whether a hospital can build another wing. All goes through these state regulatory processes. When you have a bed's not useful unless you have a ventilator, a respirator, and of course you need doctors and nurses. Then I look at this doctor issue, again, just as a pedestrian. You have Medicare-funded residency slots that are set by Congress. So Congress is setting many of these residency slots. The states are determining how many beds there are. And so at these press conferences, you and the president and others ask, what are you going to do about the beds? What are you going to do about respirators and so forth? Isn't this virus showing some of the gaps in our system? And isn't the response to it, when we look back, actually going to help fix some of that, perhaps?
Yeah. Well, you know, you've asked a good but complicated question. So first of all, everything that you just asked me about is, as we speak almost, being directly addressed by the president and the vice president in their discussions at the meetings in our task force and at the innumerable press conferences that we have. First of all, what can the federal government do? As you can see, the president has, over the last few days, has called upon the Department of Defense to supply millions and millions and millions of mask respirators, many, many, many more ventilators that we have. They're bringing in beds with regard to the naval ships that now will be deployed. They're providing financial assistance for people who are going to be in difficulty because of the virus. But the other thing that was stressed, and stressed very clearly, the second point you made, and that is, this is something that needs to be implemented, and it's the responsibility of the states and the local. So sometimes they don't even realize that they have the resources, and it's up to them to make the decisions about implementation. What the federal government does, when out there clearly are not enough, they are willing and able to help, but the actual on-the-ground implementation of it is at the local state level. That's the reason why the president has met, and I've been on telephone calls with him, with the governors more than once to try and get them to appreciate that is within their reach and within their power to make these kinds of decisions to see if resources can be properly distributed. That's not saying that we'll always have enough for everyone, and that's the reason why he's calling on the people in the industry to rev up, to make some of these things, to fill the backfill the strategic national stockpile. You know, because we have 12,700 ventilators in the strategic national stockpile. We have tens of millions of respirator masks. Once you send them out to those who need it, you have to backfill. And those are the kind of things they're doing. Bottom line is everything you just said now is being very intensively addressed, both by the president and the vice president and the administration and the task force, as well as at the local level.
The only reason I mentioned it is because I watch these press conferences with the governors. And I watched the governor of New York say, we need more beds. And I said, well, then why don't you go get them? Because under these con laws, these certificate of need laws, and the first state to have it was New York in the 1960s, they limit the number of beds for whatever the reason. They limit the expansion of facilities, and not just that, MRI, CTs, other devices too. And I'm only mentioning this so the American people understand. You sitting here can't snap your finger and then all of a sudden there's more beds, and the President of the United States can't snap his finger.
Right.
We'll be right back.